Well, hello there, and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. It's been a while since we had a catch-up with some of the jobs that are progressing, and I did a video some months ago, just pre-COVID, about sort of various jobs that we had in and where they were up to, and I think it's probably worth going around the loop and seeing where they're up to again now. We've been working on Ferraris, Lamborghinis mainly. We'll just concentrate on those, see what's going on both mechanically and with some of the metal fabrication work. So let's go and have a look what's going on. Well, one of the cars we're focusing on is the Lamborghini Miura S that changed hands in November 2019 very publicly at auction in London for £1.25 million. And we've been instructed to do a ground-up restoration on this car, but it is very original. And we're going to be looking at various aspects of what we've been up to, but sometimes the simplest jobs turn out to be some of the most challenging. And we start with a door hinge, which proved awkward. Yeah, the body's going to go for blasting shortly to take all the old paint and crud off it. So we're just getting the doors off at the moment. The other side's off, James has got that off. This side's proving a bit tricky because the top hinge pin is seized. So we're going to just try and get it off now.
Yes.
We're not going to try, are we? We're going to succeed.
We're going to succeed.
So we're just giving it a little gentle persuasion with some heat.
Bit of heat on this, yes. Probably hasn't moved for 40 odd years, or
Could be the first time
ever
since it was built in 1970.
Is that,
50 years.
Yeah. Same as me.
We won't say which is
Which is better. This may take a few moments. It's only a very small blowtorch, obviously, but if I get a bit of heat into this hinge, it'll expand a bit and release its grip on the pin. We hope.
We've got to be careful because obviously this is very visible, this area of the door here.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can't get a direct whack on the top of the hinge pin.
No. And I don't want to try and hit it off centre too much. I'll bend it and then we really will have a problem.
Yeah.
You can get a better hit on the bottom one because you can come up from here.
Okay.
This may take a few moments.
That smokes the sort of grease and oil that was in there.
Burning off dirt.
And dirt, from years. The odd person giving it a bit of an oil over the years. Yeah. Not many people do.
No. I'll give that a little go now. See if we get any joy. I'll just collect my... Ignore me hitting a hammer with a hammer. It's the rule, you shouldn't do that.
That looks like it's moving.
Yeah. Not much, but it has moved. But it will need more heat.
Right. This is the sort of job that we don't recommend that you do when the customer's stood next to the car. Okay.
These doors are the last parts to come off this car now before obviously it goes to have the shell all blasted and get ready for welding and all the repairs. Yeah. It's not in bad condition actually, this car. Better than the last one we did.
Yeah. Well, little did Luigi know, working in Bertoni in 1969 when this car was being put together, little did he know it would probably be 50 years before his hinge pin that he knocked in would next be taken out.
Yeah, that's right. As I say, this is the only one that's seized. The others have all moved quite readily.
Right, so what's happened now is the top of the hinge has actually, the hinge pin broken off.
Don't try picking it up.
Yeah, I won't pick it up. It'll be extremely hot.
Very hot.
And we know that actually isn't such a bad thing.
No, it does help us. we go.
You can hear the tone change.
Yeah, you can, and you can see it's coming down now.
Right, I'll grab hold of the door.
Well, I've still got the other pin to get out and the remainder of this one. The door isn't about to fall off. Can you hold that like that for me, Ian?
Yeah, sure.
Just so that that is through that hole.
Yeah.
And I'll see if we can get a...
When I nod my head, you hit it.
I've moved the head a little bit away, actually.
It's certainly moving.
That's...
reverberating nicely through my hand.
Yes. Broken the bottom of the pin.
Oh no.
But we'll have to get another pin made, which is what we had to do on the last one we did. And the punch won't go in there anymore. It's obviously a bit of an angle.
What about a narrower punch?
Yeah.
Oh, here's one you made earlier. Is it on the move?
Yeah, it is slowly moving. Let me
Oh yeah, well on the way. Is the pin moving?
Yes.
Oh good.
Yes, it is.
Surely it's got to admit defeat at some point in the near future.
It will.
Door's still as solid as you like.
Yeah, the pin's just part way through still.
Hey!
Oh,
Right.
now, if I can just get the bottom one out now, we'll be okay. Close that door a little bit more, yeah? It won't be long before it's in your hands.
Is that it?
That's it, yes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Marvellous.
go on the floor with the other one.
So having actually got the doors off the car, we're now going to look at the process of rebuilding the floor and sort of cutting out any rust that was there and welding in new metal. For people of a nervous disposition, you might want to tune out now because seeing a very valuable Italian work of art hacked about with bits of rust in it can be a little bit traumatizing if you're not used to it. But rest assured, this is quite normal for a 50-year-old Italian car restoration. So we're going to look at the floors first, what James has been up to cutting all that out, and then we'll have a look at the after it's gone away for blasting and things started to be, new metal and new sections started to be put on.
Okay, so this car is about to go off and be blasted soon. But what I wanted to do was remove this floor and expose all of this inside the chassis legs and inside the heat channel, so that got the blast treatment as well. Now what we've found obviously is, all this, lots of rust inside all the sections of chassis and the heat channel, which you can see there's loads of it. What I need to do now is these strips here are the remnants of the the floor, which the rest of it is there on the floor. So what I need to do is get all this off. This is all welded, spot welded all around the edge, welded on all the way along. So I need to get all this down to this is the very small piece I've exposed of original heat channel. So I need to get all this off now, so that when it gets blasted, it comes back all clean and nice. There will be obviously rust there still that we'll have to deal with, but it'll all be nice. All these, I've cleaned it out now, but all this was just full of 50 years worth of rust and corrosion. It's also had various plates welded on it here, this car. This, for example, was there. I've cut it off, exposed the original bit of floor here, and this, which I'm guessing, I haven't looked inside yet, is a plate that someone's welded on the inside. Here's another patch here that I haven't yet taken off. There's another big one here. That was there, just welded on. You can see the edge of it welded there. This is the original floor here that, as you can see, is completely rotten. So that's what we're doing. We're exposing all of this inner sections of chassis so that when it gets all blasted, it comes back nice and clean. That's the idea. The rest of it, further back, doesn't look as bad, other than maybe right at the back. So, in theory, this is the worst part of the rust. Yeah, it's a bit of a job, but it's what we do.
Well, the cars come back, the yellow Miura body shells come back from the blasters, and it's looking a whole lot better. But we found one or two things, as well as the rust, we found one or two other things which we'll explain to you now. But James has been very busy. He's been cutting, grinding, fabricating, welding. So let's see what he's been up to. You all right, James?
Yes, hi Ian.
So this is looking fantastic. You've remade all this here.
Yes, everything that touches the floor, basically, all these sections of chassis, all these here, the scoop, are all rusty. Obviously the lowest point, the floor, and these sections here, it rusts like this where it meets the floor. And yeah, you know, all this has been blasted, as you can see, and it's come back nice and clean.
So these areas that you've sprayed with a protective but conductive paint for welding.
That's well through.
This is all new. This is
yes.
fabricated.
Yes.
And it was pretty well as bad as that side, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was all very rusty. All this. I mean, when we took the floor skin away, this skin here, when we took this away from all of this, it was just completely rotten, all full of rust. All the inside of the vent there. All this was all rotten. There was damage also here on the front of the chassis, where it's obviously had a bit of a bump at some points.
Yeah, now, if we can just talk about that for a moment, because it looks as though this had had a bit of an impact from underneath. I mean,
yeah.
Imagine this is the front of the car, wheels are here, obviously. The belly of the front clamshell sits here.
That's right.
And we think it might have hit a rock or something.
It's hit something low down, but quite hard. And all of this section here was all crumpled in. The radiator mount was bent and in the wrong position. This tube was flattened and bent. This infill panel here, which is now removed from this side, was all damaged. The front of this bit of chassis here was all pushed in.
So you've refabricated all this?
Yes.
Yes.
I've taken all this off. I've taken the scoop off, I've cut the tubes out and made new. Yeah.
And this is all 1mm steel you're using?
It is, yeah.
So it's exactly as Marchesi, who actually made the chassis for Bertoni, for the Miuras, this is exactly as they would have made it in period.
Yes.
I would venture to say it's probably slightly better quality steel, and it certainly will be more rust-proofed.
Yes,
you know, I mean, they didn't put any rust-proofing on.
None of this would have been there. This weld-through primer wouldn't have been there at all. Just open sections with bare steel.
Right, it's looking fantastic. You've done a beautiful job. This is new.
Yes, that's new.
And you've built up this corner with new plate as well. Yeah. This is the fresh air duct, the heater duct as you call it.
That's right.
So the air underneath the car, if you imagine this is obviously that way up, the air comes in here and flows through these ducts.
That's right.
Right the way through to the passenger compartment to those vents in the floor there.
That's
And
right.
that's a very rudimentary ram air ventilation system.
That's right.
But of course the problem is, if it is driven in the wet, which I don't think this car has been very much, but all this gets, it's close to bare metal, it all gets covered in damp air.
Yeah, and it never can dry out very well. It doesn't, you know, it really does. It is very vulnerable, all of this.
Yeah.
And again, inside these chassis sections, all very vulnerable. Moisture, condensation forms in there, and it just rots from the inside out.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate on the Miura because this is the only area of the car where you have closed or almost enclosed box sections.
There's a little bit on the back, but this is by far the biggest part, yes.
Yeah, I mean the sills, for example, have got the holes pressed in them, so they're open to atmosphere. They don't rust as much, which is very unusual for an Italian car, because normally they rust just about anywhere and everywhere.
Yes, yeah. Well, from experience with these, this is where we find that we have the biggest problem.
Yeah,
this
exactly. The last one we did was exactly the same.
Yeah.
How does this fare to the last one we did?
It's better.
Is it?
Yes, we had to replace the whole floor, all of it, the seat bases,
that's right, yeah.
the entire floor, all of this section across here. We replaced all of that on the last one. Now these floors are really good, apart from the very front, which I can replace. These are all fine. The seat bases are fine, apart from a bit of damage here and there. Again, the vents, I'll probably make a new vent here because that one's damaged, but it's not rusty. And most likely, I will end up taking this apart here because I'm sure there's rust inside these areas.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's been plated as well. Plus, it's been jacked up and it's dinted.
This, of course, is where the engine and gearbox sits.
That's right, across there.
So the sump of the engine is here.
Yes.
This is obviously quite a significant. This is where the majority of weight in the car is.
That's
actually.
Right, yeah.
Great. Okay, and these swage marks in the floor here, and we notice again the very, very, very hand-built nature of this, because normally they're parallel, like they almost are. But look what's been going on over there.
They're not parallel at all.
That was done after a glass or two
I think so.
Lambrusco, I think.
They don't even end in the same place, look. You know, this one comes right to the edge of the floor. This one's, 4 or 5 inches shorter.
But fortunately, we've got the necessary swaging.
Yes, we had the swaging tool for making that. Yeah.
Great. Oh well, that's fantastic. And James's claim to fame, and I'm going to completely put him on the spot now. He's going to hate me for saying this, but his claim to fame is that he once went out with Ettore Bugatti's granddaughter.
That's correct. Yes, that's right.
We've got a star in our midst.
Yes.
Automotive royalty.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, James.
Thank you.
Well, things have moved on a bit now, and James has completely finished the front end here. So this is all new sections, welded up, fabricated, and we know that it's as good on the inside as the outside, and that it's better protected than it was when it was new 50 years ago. But this happens with works of art. I mean, Italian cars are absolutely notorious for rusting incredibly badly. Cars made in the 60s and 70s. You could almost hear them fizzing with the metal oxide that was going on, the ferrous oxide. But this is what happens. So we can improve on this. We can make them, obviously they're not used in the wet too much now. Hopefully they're not used in sort of salty roads and, arduous conditions. But nevertheless, it's better protected now than it was. So now we move on to the back, where James is... Oh, yes, you've been doing a bit, haven't you, really?
Yes, cutting out some old metal and...
So these are the rear chassis legs, the lower chassis legs. Of course, this is the underneath of the car.
That's right.
They're the engine mountings, so the engine sits in here, sump is here. They're the engine mountings, and this wasn't too brilliant either, as you'd expect. I mean, this is not unusual from you.
No,
is it?
It had been patched up and repaired, and various sort of bodge welding had gone on. So we were just left with we've got to take it off and start again from here.
We were like that, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
On reflection, it was absolutely the right decision to do, because there were some plates.
There were a few patches welded on these areas, but I took those off
and I could have repaired them, but when we checked it out a bit more, there was a little bit thin in a few areas, so we decided to cut it all out.
You could have found a couple of holes.
That's right, yes.
Which could be made bigger with the aid of a pick.
Yes.
Oh, never a good sign.
No.
So this is the original metal in here, which looks remarkably, actually, having said what we've said, that looks very good, doesn't it? These box sections. This is the rear suspension, the lower arm pickup points. On the SV, you've got a wishbone on the lower suspension, but on the P400 and the S Miuras, you've got an arm that comes like that, and then bisects another suspension arm there. The handling on the SV was better for that reason.
Right.
But, yeah, these pickup points are good and strong.
Yes, fine.
This is quite a complicated little section here made up, isn't it?
It is. You've got a lot going on here. Obviously all the rear chassis meets the bulkhead and the floor here. All this is all welded to the floor that we've taken off and are going to replace. So yes, there's quite a lot going on there structurally.
Yeah, and as the airflow comes underneath the car, you have a sort of ground effect scoop ventilation system thing going on. So what? That's just slightly. I mean, we can do something with that.
We can repair this. That's fine. That's just
Yeah.
sort of light damage. But there was another one of these.
So have you got it? Is that it down there?
Yes, it is.
There we go.
As you can see, they're quite vulnerable. They're a bit lower down than the rest of the car. And
Something's come along and gone, dump, you just caught it.
Yeah. As you can see, there's a few scrapes in the floor of the car. So this one's been taken off and we're going to make a new one.
Yeah, and again, that's got that cheeky little swaging in it.
Yes, that's right, yes.
But no, it's going to be absolutely great once it's done.
Completely sound.
And better than new.
Yes, yeah. And all this will be protected. You know, all this, we'll paint all this with a product we use called Weld Through Primer before the skin goes over the top of it. So rust prevention is there where it never was.
Exactly.
It was new. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Iain.
Looking at another Miura that we've got in the workshop, this one here. We did a restoration on this car recently, over the last few years, and the front hood on the Miura, the clamshell as it's called, was modified by the factory in the 1970s to later SV specification. So without the eyelashes, in other words, it was a more smooth look the SVs had. But the new owner has decided to convert it back to how it left the factory. So what we've had to do is have a whole new front end for the car made in sheet aluminium, and then James has had to literally start from scratch and make up some new eyelashes, hand fabricate some new eyelashes for it. So let's go and have a look at that. Well, I can see you've been up to all sorts of mischief, James.
Yes, very busy.
No half measures here. I heard the bacon slicer in action, or the slitting disc, and we're fitting a new front end on this to make it back into the standard Lamborghini, the Miura S as opposed to an SV lookalike. And you've actually cut the whole front end off.
That's right.
Have you got some pieces you can show us? Actually?
I have. I've got some of this is the parts of the original. Which is in several pieces now, I'm afraid. So obviously this would have been that corner.
Yeah. So that would have gone there like that.
Yes.
Got the headlight here, obviously.
I've cut a piece away here, so.
Yeah. And this is this is the steel frame underneath.
That's right.
And I mean, it's very, obviously, it's like all these things, it's almost frail without the whole thing being one unit.
Everything together in one piece gives it a lot more strength.
Yes, yeah. Okay, and you've sliced that off, and we've got the whole front end which is new. We've had that made in Italy.
Right.
And that's, can we put that on and just fit it?
We can. It might take me a moment. Bear with me.
It doesn't have to be exact. Oops. And this is hand-formed aluminium over a wooden buck, exactly as they were made originally.
Right. Obviously it takes a bit of fettling to get it in its final position.
Okay, well, we get the general idea, don't we?
Yeah.
I don't know what's stopping it from going on, actually.
It does take a bit of fitting to get it in exactly the right
manipulation, yeah. And you've altered the profiles so that it all...
That's right, yes. I've had to change the arches a little.
And this profile is exactly right now.
Yeah.
We've got these vents in the centre which can go on there. And you've actually...
I've set this edge here, so this new panel just slightly overlaps it and sits flush with the original skin, and then we'll weld along this piece here.
Right.
And then all the arches are folded and bonded into situ.
Yeah. And you can't see the join underneath, of course.
No, it's all inside this inner wheel arch.
Yeah. Well, that is that's a result. It's gone very well.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah. Very pleased.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we've been busy. This is the original gold Miura front end.
That's right.
And this is Exhibit B.
What we've taken off it.
What we've taken off it. So the original headlamps, like an SV, have got this sort of fared-in black dip in the skin of the front end, but the eyelashes are missing. So what we've actually done is completely, or what I'm using the royal we here, what you have done is we've refashioned the front end. We've had a new front end section made out of sheet aluminium over a wooden buck, as it's called, as it was done in period. But the one thing we haven't got is the eyelashes.
That's right. These are the original eyelashes from a different car, which we're replicating here. Here's one part way through. This side is done. All the headlights, I've had to move all the brackets for the headlights to make those fit. But I'm very pleased, it's turning out very nicely.
Yeah. So so you're doing this side, and no two can, because the cars are so hand built, everything is very different.
Absolutely.
On them.
They're not even the same either side. You know, they're very different. Now these top ones from another car do fit this quite nicely, as you can see.
Yeah.
But the bottom ones, they're completely different.
Well, let's have a look.
They don't fit very well at all.
Just to demonstrate.
That one is a better fit than this one.
Oops. Yeah, you can see. Oh, that's not bad actually, but it doesn't like fitting in there.
No. As I say, this one doesn't fit here at all. It just doesn't fit. It interferes with the workings of the headlights. So it's just a case of making each piece fit where it's got to go.
Which means starting from scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is built up with a series of metallic sections, which you're doing here. You cut each one, each individual fin, each individual lash is made, and then you've got this sort of substructure here, which goes in there and allows the headlight to.
That's right. That one at the moment, as you see it there, it's oversized. You know, I haven't finished it like I have this. When it's all finished and it fits nicely, I shall then make this shape on the top, which is what I've done on this one here.
Right.
So it's just each piece, one at a time.
Yeah, it's a laborious job, but there's no other way of doing it.
No, there's been a few hours on it so far, to say the least.
Yeah. And this obviously you had to adjust underneath.
That's right, yes.
Because the aluminium skin is actually wrapped over the steel frame.
It is, yes, it is.
So, I mean, it forms a pretty solid structure.
Yes, and the arches are all folded round, so this is gripping the arch all the way round to the bottom. It's riveted on along the bottom here, exactly as it was. I've used the original holes. It's it's nice. It's turning out
it's
very
coming
well.
along really well. And even these weren't quite right.
No.
You've had to fettle this, haven't you?
That's right. I've had to completely move the position of the headlights to fit these new holes.
Yeah.
That's handmade cars, isn't it?
Yeah. But this is exactly how these were made originally, isn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah. That's right.
No question. I mean, that's great. What a lovely piece of work that is.
I'm
Congratulations. It's yeah.
They're a little bit sharp and dangerous at the moment. I've got to tone that down a little bit. All the sharp edges.
Well, Lamborghinis are sharp and dangerous.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So, that's great. Really, really good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iain.
So you're building up the V12. This is the Ferrari V12 engine out of the 365 GT4 2+2, the dark blue car. And it was in a bit of a sorry state this when it came in. But we've had these rather lovely pistons made up by our friends in the US. And it seems a shame to put them inside the engine, but such is life. The original ones on this engine, because it's more of a lugger by Ferrari's standards than a screamer, this was redlined at 6,500 RPM, which is very low for a Ferrari engine, but it was all about torque and sort of a GT car really, rather than a Daytona, which is all about performance. It still went well enough, but it was a sort of 2+2, more for high-speed runs than fast dashes. But we have upgraded the pistons. These are now forged, so in this engine they'll be virtually indestructible really. And we put the crank in, and the crank was standard spec, so we've polished it, put a standard set of shells in it, and Marcus is now having lots of fun building the bottom end up.
Oh yes.
It's a very compact bottom end this. You've got the liners here, the cylinders here, crankshaft there. It really is a very elegant piece of engineering. The cylinder liners literally just push in, not like a Lamborghini where you have to hit them quite hard to press them in. These just literally push in. So very soon we'll be putting a locking mechanism on these to stop the liners actually coming out the block as the engine's turned, as Marcus builds it up. And this is exactly the same bottom end, just about, as the Daytona as well. So it's well within its working capabilities. Is it going together all right?
Yeah, all good, yeah, up to now, yeah. Absolutely fine, yeah.
The trick is to actually, because the journals are so close to the bottom of the bore, because it's such a short stroke engine, it's actually quite difficult to fit the pistons in there. Obviously we've got to hold the other end of the connecting rod to make sure it doesn't touch the journal as we tease it in with the piston ring compressor, so that it doesn't mark the crankshaft, which is really easy to do. But yeah, all good. Well, be running tomorrow, obviously.
Oh yeah, about 5 o'clock.
Okay, cheers Marcus.
Cheers.
So having built the bottom end up on the engine now, we've got the cylinder heads back, and these were in a really bad state. One of the exhaust valves was so bad it was basically the end was broken off it, and it was in a really, really terrible state, and there was loads of play in it. So the exhaust valves on these I wouldn't normally reuse unless we knew where they came from, and I don't. So we've got some new ones. These are stainless steel. The original Ferrari exhaust valves are sodium filled, which means the stem is hollow. It's a tube with a tiny shot of sodium in it, and as the valve opens and closes, it bounces along the valve and transfers heat through the actual, from the head away from the head of the valve where the action is in the combustion chamber. But these are stainless steel. I would guess austenitic stainless steel, with the head probably coated in Stellite F, something like that. So this is a new valve, and try it in this one where it's a bit more clear. The valve is lovely. There's negligible play in there now, as it should be. And here Marcus is lapping in the valves to make sure that there's a perfect seal between the valve and the seat. This is what people used to have to do all the time when you rebuilt engines in this era. Nowadays, engines are built to such fine tolerances that they don't do this process anymore. And you start with the coarse paste. Are you on the coarse or are you on the...
That's the course, yeah.
Are you on the shorts or the beer here?
On the beer.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, a little bit of coarse paste to start with, and then a tiny bit of fine to finish off. And that's it. The valve is perfectly seated inside the head. And we normally fill the combustion chambers with something very thin, like petrol, to make sure that there's a seal between the valve and the head. So it's actually going to run on 12 when it goes back together.
Yeah, rather than 10.
Great. Well, one of the cars that was mentioned in one of the earlier videos was this car here. And this is a very, very interesting car. It was the 9th off the line, if you could call it a line in the early days, but it was the 5th one that was actually sold officially to a customer. So this is the 5th ever production Lamborghini, and it was personally sold by Ferruccio to its client, Mr. Lamborghini himself. We've stripped the car completely. It came in as a complete car. We've stripped the car down, got all the bits of chrome off it, which are going to go away and be replated. And they're just showing very slight signs of pitting. And we're going to return the car back to its original colour, which is actually called azzurro metallizzato. So it's a metallic blue. And we've actually found what the people who last painted the car did was, rather than strip the door down, which is a huge amount of work, they just very carefully masked off the chrome trim and repainted round it. Not unusual, but not the sort of thing you do on a car that's worth a lot of money. But it gives us, fortunately, a great guide to match the original paint to, because this paint here is from 1964. So really, really interesting piece of history. We've got more of it in here. So all this paint is going to come off. This is the super leggera, the super light aluminium over steel frame construction. There's some areas of corrosion on it. We've just consulted with the customer, and they've asked us to remove the dashboard as well. So Pete's in the process of starting to strip that down because there are some imperfections under the material on the dashboard. It's going to show it up when it goes back together. So that will be done as well. Well, one of the projects that we've just started is this vehicle here, which is a Lamborghini LM002. It was the four-wheel drive Lamborghini, commonly known as the Rambo Lambo. And they were originally conceived as a sort of competitor to the Hummer by Lamborghini, believe it or not, many, many years ago. And it never quite took. It was called the Cheetah. So Lamborghini decided to alter the concept. Instead of having a big American V8, they decided to put a Countach engine in it, a V12, as you do. So that's what we had here. So this is essentially one of the very first true sports SUVs. And this thing will do about 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, which doesn't sound amazing now, but it certainly was when it first came out in the late 1980s. For a big 4x4 to have that sort of performance was really, really radical. And this is about almost exactly the same dimensionally as a new Land Rover Defender, the new 5-door Defender, just as a matter of curiosity. The guy who brought it on the transporter told me that. But what we're doing on this car is, it's made up of various different things. You've got steel on the roof. These are composite fiberglass. The doors are steel, so we've removed the doors. They're away being stripped and fettled at the moment. And we're going to give the whole thing a really good work over. All the suspension's going to come off, be powder coated, blasted, exactly as it was when it was new. So we'll be charting the progress of this as well. Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, please subscribe, please share, and we'll be back soon.